Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cristina Lopez, and I work in Natran, which was formerly known as GRT Gas. More precisely, I work in the research division, and currently I'm piloting activities for gas detection and emissions reduction. And so today with Violeta and Mures, we are going to speak about a JERC project that we launched back in 2020, and its name technology. The phase I will introduce right now is the phase one of this project, which name is technology benchmark for site level methane emissions quantification. And so first of all, as an introduction, why we launched this project. It's because back in 2020, there were new challenge about measurement and estimations on methane emissions. So right now, I think that the topic has gained more popularity, and we have more knowledge that we have than the one we had back in 2020. But at that time, it was like really new. And so at that time, bottom-up methodologies were commonly used by gas operation, but we had a lack of knowledge on what we call the site-level measurements. So we tried to define what was a site-level measurement, which is also known as top-down, and we saw that it's composed of four different things. First of all, you need a sensor that will give you a concentration in ppm or ppb. Then you will need some complementary measurements with anemometer or GPS to have some wind estimations and also locations. And then if you combine all this information into what we call an algorithm, you will be able to convert this ppm concentration into a leak rate in kilogram per hour, for example. And of course, what was new is that the sensor is mounted in a mobile platform. That can be a drone, an helicopter, or a vehicle in the land, for example. And so, censoring the reliability. Yeah. There is a question, maybe, or okay. So I continue. But the point is that in companies such as mine, it's very important to be able to accurately report methane emissions. And so that's why within the JERC consortium, we decided to launch a project to gain knowledge on this topic and then to try launching some tests in the field. So in this first phase, we were around 18 members, I think. So the pilot was, the lead was by Rice, which was our former name. Now, as we just rebranded, we are named Natran RNI. And there was a peer review made by two laboratories in Europe, TNO in the Netherlands and then LSE in France. And so here you can see the different members from the industry who participated in this first phase. So here I will introduce you the different work package. So as I told you, it was three different benchmark, and then we had a different work package that was about definition of next steps and trying to set some guidelines for future steps, and also organize, try to see which of these technologies were the most suitable for TSOs and DSOs, because this is important. This project was more focused on the TSOs and DSOs and not really in upstreams emissions. So the first work package and the first benchmark was about the satellite technology. The second one was about site level measurements. And the third one was about methodologies for distribution. So now I will try to say a few words on the different work package. As I just said, the first one was about satellite measurement. And we saw that this was a promising and quickly evolving new top-down approach in which detection of methane emissions around the world can be made monthly, daily, or several times per day. And this is because it's based on the satellites that are orbiting around the globe. and that they will have what we call remote infrared sensor mode that will be able to give some estimations depending on the precision as well. And so the objective of this state of the art was to understand the different systems, their current limitations, then to get a comprehensive overview of the current systems and the project in development on data analytics companies, and of course understand their technical characteristics, because as you can see here in this picture, there are different technologies available. Some of these satellites have a lower precision, but they are able to give global estimations once per day. Whereas there are other satellites that can locate precisely a plume to an industrial asset, but we will need a higher revisit time. So at that time, it was one measurement per 7 days. And now, as they launch more satellites in the orbit, I think that this revisit time it's lower, and it can be like one measurement each 2 days or something like this. And so these are the different providers that we found back at that time. And as this was made in 2020, so right now the number has increased, and there are other technologies such as methane sat that will be situated between these two, and will be able to have a better precision than this one, but he will cover larger areas than this one, for example. And so now the conclusions we got for this work package was that currently satellites are not in an independent methodology, because they rely also on a set of data coming from other instruments and methodologies. Indeed, we saw that there were some platforms such as Kairos that implements also measurements from drones or other handheld devices or whatever. And so they try to combine all this information to have an accurate estimation. And that the other important information is that the current detection limit is 100 kilograms per hour. And so that means that this detection limit might not be enough for DSOs and DSOs application, because most of the times our emissions are lower. However, some satellites such as JajiSat have enough spatial resolution to assign the source of plumes to the installation. And so this can be of a big interest for us in the future if the detection limit is improved. And then we also saw that there are challenging retrieval algorithms, but this is the same thing as site level methodologies. And now, so this is the transition for next work package. So this benchmark was about establishing a state-of-the-art evaluation of the current mobile platforms implementing these concentration methodologies. And as you can see here, you can find drones, but also land platforms and some helicopters on a plane as well, but I don't have the picture here. The objective of this state of the art was to understand the different technical parts of such methodologies, and then, of course, getting a comprehensive overview of the existing ones, and to help to select the most valuable methodologies. Because at that time, at least within my company, we haven't started yet doing site level campaigns within our assets, and we were a bit lost. And so this was a good occasion to try to focus on the best methodologies for us. As you can see here, depending on the platform, you will be able to approach your asset or not, because with some technologies such as the tracer gas methodology, you need to be outside the station and you are not really able to enter the asset. And here you can see another technology that it's named Dial. And so here you can see a drone. And I think that a good advantage with this one is that you can enter the asset and you can easily separate the different areas of your asset. Then regarding algorithms, we will find the different types. Here you can see a picture of Gaussian plume dispersion algorithm, but most of these providers, what they use is mass balance approach. And here in the bottom as well, you can see some literature studies we found back at that time. And more precisely, we found one launch in MITEC with together with EDF, where they were testing some in control release test some methodologies in Colorado, and so that gave us some ideas for the phase 2 and A and phase 2B. The conclusion of this step was that there is a very broad panorama in terms of methodologies. And so that means that we found different technology readiness levels. We found some methodologies that were in the laboratory level, but other ones that were already commercialized. And then also that there was a lack of more comprehensive, reliable data. And what we found also is that unfortunately there was a limitation to have an accurate quantification because of those algorithms that need also a wider amount of data. So I will try to go faster because I think that my time is almost over. But just a few words to speak about the work package 3, which is more about methodologies for distribution network. You need to know that what we call a reconciliation at that time. So right now I know that OGMP 2.0 doesn't want to speak more about the reconciliation for this technology, but rather on how to quantify emissions from distribution networks, and especially when you have buried pipelines. And so, as you can see here in the picture, we found that there were two main methodologies. One of them was using this site level methodology named Picaro with an analyzer in the back, and the other one was using the section method in some parts of the distribution grid. And so here you can find some operators and laboratories that have worked on this area. And then what we found out is that the mobile survey was good to spot what we call super emitters rapidly, but with limited accuracy at that time. So because right now I think that, of course, it has been a lot of improvements. And then we could also see that the dominance of a small number of large leaks on methane emissions, it's an opportunity for a cost-effective way to reduce methane emissions. And finally, we also saw that direct surveys, the existing measurement campaigns have shown the suitability of what we call direct flux measurements, although they are time consuming, but we found out that this might be the most accurate methodology. So the idea is to try to combine both of them. And so this is my last slide. Based on the findings on the previous work package, so we identified some additional research topics that needed to be studied. And so we found out that the first area of interest was launching tests to intercompare different site level methodologies. So we decided to focus on work package 2 because, as I said, regarding work package 1 satellites, it was not enough mature at that time. And but you need to know that within the ZER consortium, we are also thinking about launching future project of work package 3 in case you are interested and you want to work with us. And so now I will give the hand to Violeta because I think that this transition it's her slide also. But what you can see here, it's a photo of a campaign we did in 2021 in an Enagas site in Spain. And we launched some control release tests to be able to intercompare these methodologies. So thank you for listening. I don't know if there are any questions, but and I don't know if we need to go to the next presentation quickly, but I can reply to them in the chat. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina. So I don't see raised hand. I don't see questions in chat, but yes, you are all invited to to come with the questions. Maybe we can continue to saving the time with the next block, and then to come back if it's needed also to Christina's part, because Christina will be with us until,
Yeah,
till the end.
yeah, I won't leave. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So please, Violeta.
Okay, sorry, I have some trouble sharing the slides. I think Are you able to see the set of slides?
No, but we are
No,
able
I
to
have.
see proper title, so Methane Monday is on the
I'm
screen.
sorry because yeah, I usually have this problem with Zoom. We normally use another platform. Sorry, give me a few seconds.
Violeta, if you want, I can show the slide deck, or Christina can share the slide deck, and if you
Yeah,
have.
I think I might be able to share your slides, Violeta. So
Okay, that would be great because I'm not able to share. Sorry for
So this is
the
a real cooperative work. Nice to see in place. So until the slides will come, just let us know. Slides are coming. I just wanted to ask about the status and the plans with the project, but we can come to it at the end with Marsh. So please, Violeta.
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm sharing the right slides. Can you see the logos of the funding partners?
yeah, I can see logos from Enagas, JERC, and LSE.
No. Okay, no. I don't. Sorry, I don't know why Zoom gives us problems. So yeah, if you can
I
share.
can share, if you want, I can try and share.
Yeah, Cristina or Mures, please, because I have some IT issues.
Yeah, so I have the PDF version in front of me. I don't know, Mures, if you have the same version or you have the PowerPoint version.
I have the PowerPoint one.
Okay, so yeah, I will let you the hand then.
Okay, so let me know when you see the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good now.
Yes, good. Okay, thank you very much, and for your patience. And sorry for the IT problems. So thanks, Christina, for the presentation of the state of the art. Now I will continue with the presentation of the next phase of the project, the site level technology benchmark. So we had several phases going on of this series of projects focused on the optimization of methane emissions quantification. No? So in the next slides, you can see some pictures of all the technologies that will be involved. And now I will present more in detail the scope and the main conclusions of the technology benchmark of site level methods in real world environments. This is pioneer project because it's the first, it's a unique project with blind control releases took place in a real world environment to assess the actual performance of site level methods in a real plant. And here you can see the funding partners of the project that made this project possible. And also I would like to highlight that we had an advisory board with several meetings, and we had in the advisory board recognized experts from the authorities, institutions, academia, and the industry, and where we discuss with them the feedback and the analysis of the results. And then regarding the scope of the project here, you can see what I meant with a real world environment. This is the plant where the test took place. And this is a compressor station associated to an underground storage in Spain. And both this plant and the underground gas storage will soon be decommissioned, and thus the plant was totally inerted. There was no methane or natural gas in the lines. It was all the plant was inerted, and we created the blind control releases in the field campaign with a facility called Control Release Facility that was rented to NPL, National Physics Laboratory, metrology experts from the UK. And with this facility that incorporated several meters, hoses, and different nodes, emission points, we were able to recreate typical emissions of a midstream site. And we had 1 week of tests, and we were able to have during this campaign 17 blind tests with this control release facility. In the campaign participated 9 site-level technologies that were chosen based on the state-of-the-art presented by Christina. And also we incorporated several bottom-up technologies, because we had the opportunity to test them too. And regarding the technologies involved, you can see here a few tables regarding the technologies involved. So we had the different technology providers that incorporated different platforms and different type of sensors. Mainly the sensors used by the providers were based on the radiation absorption spectrum of methane, because this is specific for the different gases. So it's an accurate method to measure gas concentration. And then each provider had their own proprietary algorithms for the quantification. And the algorithms are mainly based on mass balance approach or inverse dispersion modeling. But these are proprietary by the providers, and we don't have the detail, all the algorithms. And you can see pictures of how the results are presented for the releases, and some details about the sensors, different sensor use by each of the providers, including also 2 technologies that are continuous monitoring approaches. And then in the next table, you can see the different technologies, source level, bottom up, also incorporated. And in this case, they went node by node to quantify when possible the release, and we were able also to assess the performance of these 3 different equipment and different approaches. And in the next slide, please, you can see that a big team was involved, and this was a successful collaboration among academia that were in charge of the analysis, the industry, and different technology providers. So just wanted to mention this. And then we will go now with a brief recap of the main conclusions, but I just wanted to highlight that the analysis is published in a scientific journal, Atmospheric Measurement Techniques. And if you want to go more in detail throughout the analysis and conclusions of the project, you can download the paper on GERC website or directly on the website of the journal. And the work was led by LSE, the French research team, laboratory experts on topics related to emissions. So going now on the regarding the results, here you can see the errors for each of the tests for each of the technology, and this is in absolute value. And also you can see the average errors for each of the technologies. As you can see, there is wide difference in the results within the technologies, and for one technology there are different results for different tests. So going a bit more in detail on the analysis, the next slide represents a graph per technology, and in the horizontal axis you can see the value of the actual leak rate, and then in the vertical line you can see the estimated leak rate. So these graphs are very useful because visually you can see clearly that there are some technologies that have a clear tendency to overestimate when the results are over the red line. And there are some other technologies with a clear tendency to underestimate. And then in the graph shown in the next slide, there is it's the same results that were shown in the two previous slides, the error per release, but here in a different mode. Here its color represents each of the releases. In the right corner of the graph you can see the colors and the size of the release. And the errors in absolute value are represented by technology. And also the graph includes in red numbers the average value of this error in the test where results were provided. However, you can see that for some of the technologies there is a wide dispersion. So we don't think this average value of error can be used for calculating the uncertainty, due to this big dispersion of the errors throughout the different tests. And then in the next slide, we represented this average of errors, and then in the two last columns we represented the percentage of releases within a particular range of the actual leak rate. So first, in the last column, for example, we represented the percentage of releases within one order of magnitude of the actual leak rate. And we can see that not all, but most of the techniques are able to provide a value within one order of magnitude of the tube rate. However, if we reduce the range and we see what is the percentage of releases within the half and double the tube rate, the number of technologies that are able to provide an estimation within this range is significantly reduced. So moving to the next slide, please. We also analyze the percentage of releases where the tube rate is inside the provided uncertainty range by technology. And we have one technology, the one based on the tracer gas release, that we can rely on the uncertainty provided. But for the rest of the technologies, the uncertainty is much higher than the provided by each of the technological partners. So as a summary, we see that mean uncertainties of the site level methods, the uncertainties are high, and in most cases well above the values stated by the technological partners. And then, just a brief recap of the more in-depth analysis. The scientific team also analyzed whether the measurement duration had any influence on the results and on the size of the error, and there was no correlation observed. Also, the size of the emission was analyzed, the role of wind speed, the role of the different type of releases was analyzed, and there was no clear correlation of the size of the error within these different parameters analyzed. So yeah, to recap, the conclusions are that the site level methods uncertainties are high, and in most cases well above the values stated by the technology providers participating in these projects. No? We also conclude that the site level methods uncertainty established by test at R&D platforms cannot be directly extrapolated to midstream sites, because midstream sites we do have compressor rooms, building structures, high equipment that interfere with the ideal dispersion of the plumes considered in the quantification models. No? So this means that in midstream sites, the dispersion of the plumes can vary a lot. For example, to represent this concept, here two pictures of a test where we had the same emission rate, the same average wind speed during the test, and the same wind direction. And the only difference between the two tests is where the emission plume was released. No? In the first picture that you can see, the test was at the vent stack, far from the main equipment of the plant, and in the second test, the release was just in the middle of the plant, in the middle of two high structures that were in the middle of the plant. And you can see that the dispersion of the gas is absolutely different when there is interfering equipment. And to finish the presentation, as I mentioned before, we see clearly that most of the methods can produce a result within one order of magnitude of the true value. However, to have robust quantification of uncertainties in real world environments, there is still work to do, and still more tests need to be consider before we have accurate levels of uncertainties to be considered. And this is why we launched the next phase of the project, focus on reconciliation, that Mures will be presenting now. And we wanted, based on all the knowledge that we gained throughout the previous phases of the advantages and limitations of the site level technologies, we launched a new phase based on to understand how to perform a reconciliation efficiently to improve our inventories. So I will hand over now to Maurice to present this last phase of the project.
Thank you, Violeta. But I think there were very lots of information. So just let's provide a chance to the participants to ask questions. I see there are already.
Yes, it was more comment and than the question by Angelica. So Angelica, if you like, just unmute yourself and elaborate more if you want. Yes.
Yes, hi to everybody. Yes, just a comment, but I think that some of the people that are here knows this because we are talking with OGMP in order to give a standard about the reconciliation, and for the vehicle-based technology. There is a protocol that is called the Veritas protocol that gives us the chance to have the two-step approach and to reconcile the emission that arrives from the vehicle investigation to the source that is identified with the pedestrian investigation of the LISAs. And so this allows us to use one technology in order to reconcile the emission. Just to give an overview of what we are doing with the OGMP. But yes, it's just a comment, not a question.
Yeah, thank you, Angelica, and nice to see you again in virtual. Yeah. So yeah, indeed, I didn't have much time to develop this methodology, but indeed, the idea with Picard is that first you drive, and then there is an operator with a handheld device that goes directly to the area where the vehicle has seen the leakage, and then they quantify it with a handheld device. So indeed, it's the way to complete the methodology. But thank you also for your comment on the Veritas protocol, because I have worked with them, but more in the midstream part. And maybe this is a question for you. Do you know if it's the pathway 3 or pathway 2? Because I know that they have launched several types of protocols, but there is one aligned with OGMP and source level measurements that it's named pathway 3, I think, or something like this.
Yes, I think it's 3 because it's a mixed path, and with this kind of steps, we can reach the level 5 because the technology is automatically reconciliated. So yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you both. In the meantime, it was a question in the chat and answer in the chat. And it was also comment by explanation actually by Mr. Salo, because I'm not sure how to pronounce the first name. But thank you very much for this explanation on conditions of measurement, because I have to also admit, and this is what I wanted to also to ask, I mean, this huge uncertainties, I mean, 200%, 100%, but yes, as Violeta already said, the work will continue to somehow to steer this this classes and limits on uncertainty.
Yes, and if I can, thank you, and Jouko Salo here. So I'm from Aeroman. We're a ISO accredited lab nowadays doing these measurements. So it's exactly this. There's a paper coming out with the UN and Stanford on research on these emissions that was conducted last summer at TADI. And there's a specific focus on the wind conditions, which have a huge effect on the uncertainties. We just put a paper out on that. I can put the link in the chat on that also.
Maybe we will present this methodology actually factors and how they influence the measurement in one of the next Mondays. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so please add the link in the chat. Thank you. And maybe also Adrien, indeed you you saw the answer from Violeta on the tracer. Nevertheless, the next best one is LiDAR 2, which is, I would say, in the same order of magnitude, that has more systematically tracked the vent stack emissions. So that's the helicopter mounted LiDAR.
So shall we continue then, Mariusz, with the third phase? Or
yes.
Second B.
Yeah, 2B. So let me share again my screen. So maybe just a chance, Violeta, you skipped your own introduction. If you don't mind, just introduce yourself and I'll introduce myself afterwards.
Okay, sorry. from my side, introduction. I work in ENAGAS innovation department. ENAGAS is a Spanish gas transmission operator, and in the innovation department, yeah, we address technical gaps for the operation of the network, and lately one of our focus has been emissions management, because there are new regulations, OGMP standards, so more and more requirements, and we dedicate part of our time to see how these new technologies can be incorporated in our operations to have a more efficient network operation. Thank you, Muriel.
Thank you. Let me introduce myself too. My name is Muresh Zaria. I retired last year from ENGIE, and I continue as on a voluntary basis to chair the methane emissions working group in GERG, which stands for European Gas Research Group. I'll put the in the chat. I'll put the link to the website. So I'll present to you the what we call the phase 2B project. So after this blind testing of different technologies, obviously the most natural next step was to go on a site and do what these technologies are supposed to do. So you remember from the OGMP perspective, the idea is that you can have a better confidence in the methane emission quantification if you have two independent approaches. So those are the source level measurements or estimates and quantification. That's what is called the L4 inventory. And if you come with site level measurements and you compare those two, you achieve what is called in OGMP language level 5 reconciliation. So, okay, just let me briefly summarize. These measurements were performed on a compressor station in Belgium with, as mentioned, instantaneous source level quantification by a recognized service provided on all the sources that were identified in the site. And at site level, quantification was performed by several providers selected based on the results of the previous phase presented by Violeta. And then very much in the same way as in the previous phase, the analysis of results was performed by independent academics with Dr. Hossein Mazalahi, associated to the Utrecht University, and with Professor Thomas Ruckman, who reviewed the report. Sorry, it's been the same from the previous presentation. Actually, there's a timer that I don't know how to control that after some time jumps to the next slide. So it's not voluntary from my side. Sorry about this. And the third part obviously is trying to propose some recommendations for the reconciliation process for EU midstream gas facilities, which are aligned with the OGMP guidance. So you will find, again, 16 partners that co-funded the project. And then if we zoom in on the actual facility, you can see an aerial view here. It's really a small plant. Wow, this starts to become very quick. If anyone knows how to manage the timer, okay, I'm not sure how to do it. So back to the topic. So you see here the aerial view of the compressor station, and it was on purpose chosen to be a small one because the topic is sufficiently complex per se to avoid getting also stuck with the complexity of a large plant. So it's a compressor station with 4 electrically driven compressors, so no gas engine or gas turbine, and 23 meters high vent stack here where I show it with my pointers. And the station hasn't been compressing gas for the last 3 years before the test, so that operating mode was not available in the sense that having operating compressors, that wasn't an available operational mode. So we had just 2 operational mode availables. One is with all compressor depressurized, that's called mode 1, and the other mode called mode 2 is with 1 compressor pressurized. So you can see here how the tests were arranged. There was it took 2 days, 2 full days, plus an additional one for extra catch-up measurements. But basically, during the first 4 hours of the day, it was mode 1 with all compressor depressurized. Then during lunch, compressor C1 was pressurized, and the 4 hours in the afternoon were used to perform tests in that second mode, and the same routine was repeated the second day. And at the end of each day, the compressor was depressurized, and like this, this process could be also monitored to check how it could be quantified. And the tests and field coordination were managed by a collaborative team between Fluxys, Enagas, who was the project leader, and Bureau Veritas, who helped with the field coordination. So if I'm trying to get rid, okay, so this looks better. We can see this, the titles. So if we start with the source level quantification, the vents and the fugitive have the blowdown valve with open-ended lines were treated with the detection by OGI and an FID analyzer, and quantified with bagging and or FID plus anemometer. For fugitives, for other fugitive emissions, first there was an inventory of potentially leaking components. The total plant was more than 11,000 potential leak points, and the detection was performed with a FID sensor. It led to about more than 500 leaks, and then these were quantified with bagging using the EPA 95 procedure for all leaks that had a concentration of in excess of 50,000 ppm. And for the rest of the leak, 1/3 was quantified with bagging, and the rest with the correlation via EN 15446. And there were 5 inaccessible leaks that required the use of QGI with the FLIR camera. And for obviously, as this is an electric drive compressor station, there's no incomplete combustion due to the prime mover, so only 3 burners from small boilers that were used for heating purposes could provide an opportunity to quantify incomplete combustion. And that occurred mainly during starts and stops of those boilers. And detection and concentration measurements were based on FID, and obviously an anemometer was added to quantify the emissions. So it's important to see here, in addition to the aerial views, the fact that there was the compressor station was subdivided in several areas with consistent equipment. So you have these areas in light blue, A1, A2, A3, where you had the connections, valves, pipelines. You had the areas B here, B1, B2, B3. These are the boilers for incomplete combustions. And then area C, so one building for two compressors, C1, second building C2 for the other two compressors, and here the pipe work for and the valves for connecting to the main lines. And the vent stack, as mentioned, is here. You can see it here on the picture. And here the compressor buildings, the pipe work, the areas A1 over here, C1, C2, C3, and the boilers on that side. So that's I insist on this because obviously these different areas have different equipment on it, and it was asked to all the site level measurement providers to if they are able to provide also quantification of emissions at area level and obviously at site level, but for those who can also at area level. So here again, the site level technologies that were used. So you find again drones, Aeromon with TDLS and ABB, and then the two LiDAR, the helicopter-based and large truck-based from NPL, and then vehicle-based also open off-axis, sorry, ICOS from ABB, and the tracer gas that was used. So these two did not provide results in the previous phase, but they claimed they had improved. So they performed the test too. So on the continuous monitoring, Sensia was used again, and then Sensirion that didn't participate in the previous phase. 3 leaks were also tested with a high flow sampling device, and the OPGAL OGI was also tested for bottom up. So here just a rapid view of the facilities and the implementation of different quantification technologies, including here you can see bagging, the cameras, the helicopter-based one. Here you see the vent stack, etc. So now let's move on to the outcomes of the study. The concept here is that of what's called snapshot or instantaneous reconciliation, because there are basically two options that, at least two options that are aligned with the recommendations of OGMP2. One is this one, which consists, as you can, if you have detailed information about the time variations or the time variability of your emissions in the L4 inventories or in the source level inventory, then by statistically processing those data, you find out that you have a defined operational mode. In other terms, set of operational parameters that have a small variation over time, or at least that they're present during a long time. For instance, for a compressor station, you would have 3 operating mode. One is compressors operating, the other one compressor completely non-operating and depressurized, and an intermediate one with compressor non-operating but pressurized. So as mentioned before, here we have only 2 modes, so it makes things simpler. But that shows that this requirement of having access to the time history of operational parameters in the compressor station allowed to undertake this instantaneous or snapshot reconciliation. And as mentioned here, obviously, this is aligned with the uncertainty and reconciliation technical guidance document. And obviously, these data availability of data is the case for all, or if not all, most European compressor stations. So the idea just how is it how does it translate in practice is identify the relevant operational modes, as mentioned by having a look at accumulation point, I would say, in terms of statistics for the operational parameters, typically pressure. And then for each relevant mode, you compare the source level measurements quantification with the associated uncertainty ranges with the site level quantification with the corresponding uncertainty range. Obviously, you would need to have both for the same mode. And then when comparing those, you, as mentioned, the idea is to have two independent points of view. Like this, you can compare what those different points of view provide as information, and then making that comparison, you go and improve. You verify and you consolidate your inventory for that specific mode, which means that you have to repeat this process for each operational mode. And as you certainly know, there are also aggregated annual asset level reconciliation, which means that multiple measurements are taken along a year on different assets and are statistically processed, or vice versa. You have several measurements which are taken on the same asset and once again statistically processed, and that is being investigated by an IMEO study, but that does not really help a lot in finding very precisely which are those which are the most significant sources of emissions. And therefore, we believe that industry is really more interested in being able to practice the snapshot or instantaneous reconciliation, because that provides more insight into how to mitigate. So now, just to summarize, to produce this consolidating level 5 inventory, we can go ahead with the snapshot reconciliation. We can go ahead if we have sufficiently detailed time series concerning emissions in the source level inventory. And that means that the operator is familiar with the sources of methane emissions and variability to interpret the data during the reconciliation process. So you need obviously the detailed information on the equipment, operational mode and status precisely of the equipment when the measurements were performed, to make sure that those are comparable between the source level and site level measurements. And they need also to track and record and all the events related to maintenance, operations, and incidents, and also to have a good characterization of variability for the potentially variable sources in the source level inventory. This is a typical example being the blowdown valves with open-ended lines. Then if we go into the practical recommendations for the snapshot reconciliation, as mentioned, we need first to identify each operational mode. But I would say from practical point of view, you cannot guarantee exactly what the mode will be when the measurements are planned. So there is some flexibility which is requested in this point. For instance, to verify the either you can check the modes at different sites within the asset, or you can do it in subsequent years, or any combination of those two. So like this, you can reach a consolidated inventory for each mode for the asset, and you can check that there's consistency with the sampling recommendation in the guidelines. And obviously, in the first years, you should rather look for the modes with the highest emissions. And obviously, you need to ensure the traceability of source level methods and operational parameters that is present in the systems. Obviously, the number of hours each year in each mode for each compressor, the number of blowdown operations to be taken into account, the number of changes of the valve position for the blowdown valves with open-ended line, etc., etc. And obviously, as clearly mentioned in the uncertainty and reconciliation guidelines, and as could be seen recently in, for instance, in the Methane Mitigation Europe event in Amsterdam 2 weeks ago, I would say the game is not just to compare whether there's overlap between the source level inventory and site level inventory, including uncertainty ranges, but you need to go beyond that and understand why there are discrepancies. And what Violetta showed earlier on the pretty large uncertainties on site level methods, that's an additional motivation to do so. And so here is what we mean by going beyond this overlap. Typically, when after doing this comparison, the question is, how can we analyze the elements of that comparison and make sure that we learn something that allows us to improve the consolidating inventory. So here on the right-hand side of the slide, you can have a few practical hints, like did the site level method identify an additional source which is not included in the current inventory? And in many conferences, you hear those kind of stories that the site level inventory had a broader coverage and then helped to find sources that weren't included in the source level inventory. And also, are there clear systematic biases in quantifying the sources, or is there any aspect of variability that appears that was not known or realized before? So all these learnings have to be incorporated to improve the level 4 inventory in the next year. So like include the unknown sources, make further direct measurements or optimize source quantification where you have identified either unknown variability or any over or underestimation bias, etc. So that's the overall idea. And now more specifically, you have to ensure that site level estimates are aligned in terms of time and completeness. So you have to do both pretty much at the same time level, obviously not at the same instance in order to avoid interferences, but in a short time interval. And having the operational parameters monitored so that you can confirm that both measurements correspond to the same operating mode. And during site level measurements, if they're not able to locate the origins of the releases of the emissions, it's recommended to deploy in parallel an OGA camera to identify the main sources. And And then this is a very important recommendation that was also confirmed 2 weeks ago in Amsterdam by one presentation, or even more than one presentation, is that you have to go more granular with the site level quantification than just the overall site, which doesn't really help you learn so much. And this is because typically if you can have matching level 4 and level, let's say, source level and site level inventories, but it can be for good reasons as it can be for not so good reasons. And the not so good reason is you just have compensating errors. And this is, you can track that if you go to the level of detail of the area. And typically, in this case, we give the example that you should exclude from the comparison those areas where the provider, the site level measurement provider, did not detect or quantify emissions because sometimes they cannot capture the diffuse emissions, and then they should not be included in the comparison. Typically, that's what happens above the compressor buildings, because the measurements inside the compressor and outside the compressor are not at all the same, and so they should be reconciled separately. That's the case for emission indoors, and one possibility is to use the quantitative OGI to verify these emissions inside buildings. Then obviously there's another huge contribution to the annual emissions is blowdown events that can be performed for a number of reasons, either safety, that's emergency blowdown, after the stop of the compressors for maintenance operations, and these emissions are quantified using engineering calculations, which are actually a lot more accurate than any measurements and any measurement that could be performed, because they rely actually on physical measurements. You measure pressure, temperature, the volume is fixed, obviously, but it's quantified too. And like this, thermodynamic calculations allow you to have a precise quantification, because if you wanted to use site level methods, that becomes really very difficult, because it's highly time dependent. It decreases very quickly, and so it's and at the beginning there are very high release rates. So this is not practical to go and quantify with site level measurements. So it relies therefore on a solid and good traceability of operational data with, as mentioned, gas pressure, temperature, etc. If we move on with the practical recommendations on selecting the site level technology, obviously you need to ensure that the quantification threshold is below the expected area emissions and obviously site emissions during the time of the measurements, to make sure that most emissions will be captured. This should be linked typically to what first Christina mentioned about satellites. Satellites are good to spot really very large emissions, as mentioned, several tens to 100 kilograms per hour, but it's not at all what was measured in everyday life in midstream facilities. So this is an important aspect. And also make sure that, as mentioned by Violetta, you pick a technology that has also been submitted to controlled blind testing, especially in complex environments, because as mentioned, METEC or TADI data with the sparse equipment in open land are not really the same condition as a congested area in a compressor station with many pipes and buildings, etc. And also it's recommended to look at technologies that can provide concentration pictures that or mapping, concentration mapping that allows you to look at the sources and find where the plumes are. Not only easier comparison, but as mentioned, this helps you make sure that you understand where your sources are and what your sources are. And obviously an extension, especially to better understand the time variability, is check how continuous monitoring sensors or cameras can help track over longer time these intermittency and how they can affect the annual uncertainty. And we heard also a few examples during the Amsterdam presentation. So as a summary, we think that the purposes of looking from different angles or trying to quantify from different angles emissions between source level inventory and site level inventory provides added value as long as they can help you identify what main sources are and how you can improve the current quantification to have a better one in the following year. And obviously, with the snapshot reconciliation, you should not just stop at checking the overlap, because as mentioned, even an overlap can actually hide, can occur for not the best reasons. And as long as the learnings from the comparison help you improving the inventory, you can consider it's a successful one. And obviously you need to complete it for all the different operating modes. So in this case, you can see once again a numerous team with a lot of hardware and equipment, and you have there also our emails in case you want to get in touch. And well, thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mariusz. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. I mean, we overpassed our foreseen 1 hour, but I think that it was worth, because it's really so much experience and so much knowledge, and then recommendation really for other operators from where to start, where to pay attention, and so on. Actually, I wanted to ask and similar question Susanne put in the chat. What are the plans with this project? So it's going to continue? Will be there phase 3 of the project? And of course, if operators can approach you and find and learn more details, more really specific details from operators and of course from researchers.
Sure. So just to clarify, so I think I saw just very quickly that there is someone put the GERG website in the chat. So yes, indeed, you can check on the GERG website the membership. It's mainly gas infrastructure operators, but also academia and service providers. And the principle is that we set up projects, and those in the membership who are interested in funding those projects, they contribute to the project, and if we reach the necessary amount for the funding the project, then the project is executed. So that's how it operates, and obviously these projects are also open to other non-GERG partners if they're interested. So typically, currently, we're preparing a project to help with the standardization of high flow sampling devices. So there are new ones, as mentioned before by Christina and Violetta. We see a sprawling market, new technologies every day, and these need indeed let's say standardized procedure to evaluate performance and independent performance evaluation in realistic conditions. So we have a project on that on high flow sampling. So if there's anyone interested, please get in touch with me. There's also a desk study being set up on continuous monitoring and also for pipeline, buried pipeline emission quantification, and also for emission quantifications for pipelines below water surface. So just like state-of-the-art gap analysis. So if you're interested in any of these topics, yeah, don't hesitate to get in touch, and you can learn more about the proposal, and then if interested, you can participate as a partner in that project. Violetta, Christina, anything else you would like to add, please?
No, thank you, Mures. And yeah, we are open to discuss with everyone because we are all learning, and we can all learn by exchanging experiences, no, with site level and reconciliation.
Yeah, and same for me. Thank you everyone for attending, and hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you very, very much to all three of you, because it was really very precise, very detailed, and with a lot of knowledge gained and shared. We are thankful for that. I hope all participants as well. I mean, we overpass our time, but this is when you have something interesting and valuable to show. We will ask you, I mean, if you are fine to publish the slides and recording. So we will exchange on that. I would invite really all to check GERG site and to find all details and other projects as well. Check also, please, our Energy Community site. As I said, we are just reopening Methane Mondays. We will restart again and planning to have the next one first Monday in April. So thanks to all, and have a good afternoon and good March, let's say, until we see each other at the beginning of April. Bye.
Thank you very much, Carolina. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
For participating. Thank you. Bye-bye.